Hi everyone, welcome back to my next video. Today we're going to talk about a subject that you probably don't hear much about, but I hear about it a lot because I'm out here, and that's the subject of multiple chemical sensitivities. And we're here with Madison, and you are struggling with multiple chemical sensitivities.
Yes.
So, because most people aren't familiar with it, I'm sure you run into that all the time.
Yes.
So, because I've known numerous people with multiple chemical sensitivities, and this is a solution for a lot of them. You have a hard time being around buildings sometimes?
Yes, inside buildings. Yes.
And a lot of the people I've known with MCS, we're going to call it MCS to save some time, it's mold-based first?
Not
Was that for you?
necessarily. Not necessarily. That was for me, but not. There's a lot of people that have it that's not how it started. It can start many ways, simply just by chemical exposure, some of them. For me, yes, and that is a common way, is to have, a bad toxic mold exposure over time, and then you develop sensitivities to all sorts of things, include the chemicals are one of the first to make itself known, that you feel just really sick with any kind of, bleach is really bad. That's the first, indicator for a lot of us. Fragrances are awful, perfumes, colognes, people, and laundry detergents, dryer sheets.
And you said your sense of smell becomes greatly enhanced.
Oh, yes, and that's common for both MCS people and mold sick people. Your sense of smell. There's all sorts of issues that come with mold, but the MCS is more focused on specific chemicals and fragrances. And
so for you, it started when you just felt bad, and you started wondering why you felt so bad, and then you made the connection.
Okay, so for me, I got I was living in a moldy apartment, and for quite a few years I didn't know it was there in the walls. I suspected it, but I didn't see it, and it was just easier. Like most people, we just kind of go into denial and say, well, it's not affecting me if I can't see it. And then one day my landlady did some renovations, and it kicked it up, as mold will do when exposed to oxygen, and it grew like crazy, and it was growing on my baseboards and walls and things that I had on the floor, on the carpets, so it became visible to me, and I was very sick right away. It was doing some permanent damage to my immune system. I knew I had to move out immediately, but it took me 9 months to get.
And it probably just got worse.
I did, and then what you're not supposed to do is take your belongings with you, your moldy belongings with you. Someone's told me that. It didn't make sense to me. I thought, I can't throw all this away. It's my stuff. I can't afford to replace it all. And they were right. So I moved out of state to a new place and brought all my poison with me. And so I made myself even sicker for the second year. It's a toxin. People aren't understanding that it's not an allergy to mold. It's a toxin, and it's poisonous to all of us.
Right.
But some people, 75% of the population, can leave and get better and detox on their own. 25% of the population, like myself, can't.
Let me throw in a comment here, and that I've heard about both mold and MCS. The reason the medical community does not respond to it and just kind of sweeps it under the rug is because if it ever gets out that a moldy landlord or a boss or a store with mold in it is killing people, 25% of the population, making them terribly unsick, the economic devastation that would come out of those lawsuits could crush the economy.
Yes.
So they're not going to accept it as a community. And you ran into that everywhere you went.
Absolutely.
They just didn't know anything about it. They just ignored it. I can't help you. Pat you on the head, give you something, and send you on your way.
Yes. And like you said, it's either that, there's either denial or, not shutting down, not wanting to know about it. There are some that know and just will pretend not to, like
Right.
the government. And then there's the people who are badly misinformed.
So you have probably run into mockery and not help all along, I would imagine.
I personally learned really fast to keep my mouth shut.
Right.
The disbelief and the confusion. I've mostly run into confusion. The people I share it with, I'm kind of discerning about who I'll tell about it. And
So how are you then finding help for your problem?
so the Facebook groups that have helped me the most are toxic mold groups, and there's quite a few of them. But one of the main leaders on them is Eric Johnson, who was one of the earliest mold sufferers, and he studied it a lot on his own. So he's done quite a bit of research that he's made public to people for free by leading these groups and answering people's questions for free. He's just doing this. And then
Can you give us some of the names of the groups off the top of your head,
yes.
if you have them?
The way I found it was Toxic Mold Support Group. That's the name of that group. And then there's let's see, Mold and Chemical Sensitivity Lifestyle. There's the MCS groups also, just one is called MCS, the other one's called Multiple Chemical Sensitivity. I mean, there's so many. If you put in any of these,
You'll get them.
you'll get searches for.
So you found these face groups, and you finally realized what was going on with you.
Yes.
And did you find what looked like some kind of a solution or hope?
Well, there's a lot of options that people give, and there's protocols, and there's ways you can do it on your own or trying to see a mold specialist. There's all sorts of approaches, but I don't have a lot of money, and I mean, I was so sick. I was so sick to start with that I didn't.
And
have
you
a lot
couldn't
of-
work
No,
because you can't go in buildings.
no. Well, that's only part of it. But yes, I mean, it crushes your energy level so much, and I already had I had EBV and Epstein-Barr virus and things to begin with, and a lot of us do before we get toxic mold.
Because it's probably some way connected to the genetic
It is, I think. And
defect.
I
mean,
think
that's
so.
what it is.
And also that we are already, laid low by our immune system issues, and then
Right.
it comes in, and it's sort of the straw that breaks the camel's back.
And it becomes kind of a flood and mixture of all
Yes.
kinds of things.
And then, it kind of spirals out of control from there.
So have you found something of a solution? Have you found any hope?
I'm sorry. My story's not very hopeful.
Your story is not very hopeful. Well, then people need to hear that. We need to say that. People need to know,
Okay.
if you're willing to tell us.
3.5 months ago, I had to suddenly leave my last condo because of a leak that happened when the only time I've been out of town. It leaked under my kitchen sink and grew mold pretty quickly because it was 80-something degrees every day during the summer and fall. So when I got home, there was mold growing under the sink, and my landlord wanted to use his remediator. And there's no way I can force him to go and use some remediator I would prefer just so, I can guarantee I'll feel okay there. I can't do that legally. I wanted to move anyway. I just hadn't been able to find a place to go. So I said, if you'll give me a week, I'll get my stuff out of here and you can remediate then. But if you can just hold off a minute, let me get out before you do that, because I knew they were going to do things like not cover the area properly and run the HVAC, and I'd get a lot sicker. So I thought I'll just go stay in my car for a while, and a lot of my friends on Facebook were stuck doing that. So I thought I'd try it and see how I did. And I spent a lot of my life camping, so it wasn't totally new to me. So that's what I've been doing for 3.5 months, is living in my car. It's just a Subaru Tribeca, and so it's bigger than some people only have a little 4-door sedan to live in. So I feel kind of lucky in some ways, but other people they invest and get cargo vans or campers or whatever and go live in the desert. So I was here anyway. I was in the desert already. So I just kind of been traveling around trying to find places where I feel good and where the air quality feels good to me. And that's been really hard to find.
How is it doing here?
Quartzite is good.
Quartzite is
for
good.
me, and I know we're all different. A lot of people react
Yes.
because there's different toxins that we've become sensitive to.
And how have you done here at the RTR? I mean, we're a lot of people packed into a small space, and you're done okay.
I'm doing okay. It's, hit and miss. And things like fuel exhaust and things get to people like me, but we just have to try and avoid it. I'm not as sensitive as some. Some people cannot even be around, this many vehicles would make them sick.
Well, of course, this is the abnormal time to have this many people here. In even a month, there will be very few people left here.
Yes.
You will be here all alone with no one around.
And that's when I got here a month
Yes.
ago, early December, and it was great.
And it will be again.
Yes,
But I would assume that you're like most of us, and the heat will drive you out of here.
it will. It will.
And so you've just started, is that right?
It's been 3.5 months. So
Well, I'm
yeah.
wondering maybe in the national forest, where there's a lot of places where you can be completely alone in
Yeah.
the national forests.
I haven't tried it yet.
I bet it will work.
The
I
spring
hope.
and summer. We'll see how I do. I don't do great at high elevations.
Oh,
So
breathing.
not for me. For me, it's a pain issue. Fibromyalgia. I developed that while I was in my mold house. So I don't know if that's a coincidence or not, but I don't think so. But when I go back to higher elevation mountain towns, that pain kind of comes back. The energy level is more frustrating for me than the pain itself. Pain's awful, don't get me wrong, but there's something I can treat it with, or something, there's some solution to finding pain relief. But what do you do when you cannot find energy?
Right.
There's just, if I can't get the energy to, to take care of myself, to keep a job, to clean, basic hygiene, basic maintenance of my vehicle, and that's what's really hard. Lack of energy.
Well, I really have dealt with numerous people in your situation, and a lot of them did find if they could get out and get away and start to heal, they did improve. Are you
Yes.
hoping that might be true for you?
That's what I was starting to tell you before, is that I found things that I didn't notice went away since I've been living in my car. I just took it for granted because, there's new problems that come with living in your car. Like I said, I wasn't exposed to cyanotoxins because I wasn't out traveling the desert, or, these different toxins. But now I've noticed when I did go back to a motel recently for a couple nights that my skin burning started to come back, and that had gone away, and I hadn't even noticed.
Right.
Some of the tremors and the shakiness that I had disappeared.
And because the car has already shown you a big improvement, and made your life much more bearable, you're pursuing finding a vehicle to live in full time?
Yes.
That's what you're kind of seeing as the next step.
I think so. I was just telling that other lady that I have a deadline, and I have to decide if I'm gonna, pursue government housing assistance or give it up forever. And I have to decide that really quick here, because if I live in a vehicle, that's on me. I'll have to come up with the money to do that. And I know a lot of people are doing that, and they're homeless, and their car is their home, their vehicle's their home. But
it's so much easier to get a vehicle that is neutral for you, non-destructive.
Yes.
That shouldn't be too difficult. I was telling you earlier, I have a friend who, with toxic mold syndrome, and he could not be inside a building practically, because they all have a little bit, and he was instantly out with mold. And he bought an all aluminum teardrop and was fine, and he did improve steadily. So, and I don't know that would work for you, but I bet you can find something that would.
I do think I could do okay.
So for you, there really is not a light at the end of the tunnel, but living in a vehicle appears to be your best option.
The best
right
option
now.
right now. Yeah, I don't know that I see. The world would have to change, basically, for people with MCS and mold illness to completely turn around.
While that is for society to change and adapt for its people, that's probably not going to happen the expectation is you're just going to suffer and toughen up. You know, it's all in your head. Have you ever heard that before?
Oh,
It's all in
course.
your head.
Of course.
Yeah, you know, you just need to toughen up
You
a
don't
bit.
look sick.
You don't. Yes, right. You look really good. You look healthy. I think, you know, for the people I have talked to, because I have talked to a fair number, this was the only avenue they found.
Yes.
Or if you have the money and can build your own home
Yes.
in the middle of nowhere that is neutral for you. And if you don't, this is as close as you can get because you can afford a vehicle that
Yes.
will be neutral for you.
Some people can't.
Yes.
They can't even do that.
Right.
And then there's
Because you
the
have no
next
way to make
level.
money anymore. You can't go to work. Or
Right.
You don't have the energy to work.
And there's not like assistance for this kind of thing.
Right.
You know? So a lot
The
of
government cannot acknowledge this without taking some responsibility
Exactly.
for this.
Exactly.
So, well, I guess all we can do is, it is kind of a grim story. And, you know, you must feel bad. You must feel bad telling people.
I
because
do.
they make that. I feel bad for you, and there's nothing I can do.
Right. And sometimes that gets hard.
That's
It's
unpleasant.
tiring because you
Yeah.
don't want everyone to be feeling sorry for you and be a pathetic, sad story all the time. And so I just don't tell a lot of people.
Right.
I just choose not to. When I meet them, I act like everything's normal, and they, from all appearances, you know, I'm driving a normal car, and if they don't see that my sleeping bag's inside, then they don't know.
Well, I'm so glad you shared your story with us because this is a message that needs to get out. It doesn't matter. You just can't condemn a pretty large percentage of the population to lives of horror because we don't want to face it. That just isn't acceptable.
Well, and by the way, everyone would get sick from toxic mold. Everyone will get sick from it.
To some
eventually.
degree.
Eventually. So it's just that some can get away and get better.
Right.
Where,
Their bodies respond more appropriately by self-healing.
yeah.
And yours goes into a downward spiral.
Yes.
I really am delighted that this can be a tiny beacon of hope, that there is a community that will accept you. And I believe it is a possibility of a solution for some healing in your life, and you've already found it. Moving into a car has helped you.
Yes.
And hopefully it will just continue to grow as you find the right vehicle neutral for your life. And your life will finally have some hope.
I hope so.
And that's, I consider myself in the hope providing business. And people with MCS they have a special place in my heart because I like to provide. I know nothing, I have nothing, but this might be a small avenue of hope.
Well, thank you so much.
Yeah.
And thank you for doing this and putting a light on
Yeah.
it because, like I said, those people online, everyone's like, how do we tell people? How do we get this out there? How do we explain this to people so they understand? And we talk about it all day, every day online, and how to, you know, give more awareness and make people more aware that they're actually making us really sick when they wear perfume and cologne.
Right.
And, you know, all the tons of...
Well, a huge amount of my emphasis is getting back to nature and just getting back to the natural things. And to me, it's just common sense that those, you know, they test those perfumes on animals and destroy animals, and then they hurt people, and it's money spent and chemicals and on and on and on. There's nothing good about any of it.
Nothing
There's
good.
no reason to do it in any way, shape, or form. Well, I hope you find some relief out here. I believe there's some chance, at least. There's some hope.
Yeah.
And folks, I know this has been a Debbie Downer video, and you know this is your life,
Yep, that's my
Debbie
life.
Downer. And yet, if we don't talk about it, it'll never improve, and it needs to improve, and it will get worse, and it will just get worse and worse and worse if we continue not to say anything. And so you're brave to share your story, and I thank you.
Well, thank you.
Thank you.
I'd feel guilty if I didn't.
So folks, we're going to stop there. Thank you so much,
Thank you
Madison.
so
I
much.
just really appreciate your sharing your life, as painful as it is.
Thank you.
And it's not easy, and I know it's not easy. So folks, I hope you've got something out of this, and you know what you can do more for me than anything else is to give this some thought, to spread a little bit of the word. Said, I've heard about this, and maybe you can offer hope and encouragement to others that you run into, and maybe do whatever you can, and most of us can't do much. So thanks for watching, and I hope you like us on YouTube, subscribe to the channel, and communicate hope wherever you can, in any way you can. Thanks again, Madison.
Thank you.
And we'll talk to you later.